occasionally. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. This is our online Expo series. This week we are featuring nonprofits who are focused on the community COVID response. And we're really excited to invite these 4 nonprofits here today. They've all been nominated by this cross-departmental work group that's been working together, which we're going to tell you a little bit more about at the very end of the presentation here. And before we get started, I want to start off with a land acknowledgement, which is not something that we have done in these before, but something we've been really wanting to do. So just acknowledging that we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people, the first people of Seattle, and that we honor with gratitude both the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. I just wanted to make sure that we kick off by kind of contextualizing where we are. So just a reminder, these are going to keep on going every Thursday through the end of the employee giving drive. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Each of our nonprofit presenters will speak to you for about 10 minutes or share some video, and then be able to take a couple of questions. And then if there are any more questions, more than a couple, we're going to save those until the end, just to make sure that everyone has full time to speak. And so with that, I would like to welcome our first presenter. This is Meredith Sibley. She is the development manager at Byrd Barr Place. And with that, take it away, Meredith.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie. And hello, everyone. I also want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and watch this expo and learn about the work that all these nonprofits are doing in the Seattle area in response to COVID. So thank you. And with that, next slide. So I'll just start with a little bit of history about Byrd Barr Place. Not everyone is really familiar with us, but we're actually one of the oldest community organizations in Washington State. We were founded in the era of the Economic Opportunity Act in 1964 as a result of Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. And then in 1979, we joined the Washington State Community Action Program, a network of 31 agencies with a shared mission to eradicate poverty. So we have a very long history in working with vulnerable populations in Seattle and helping them meet their basic needs. Next slide. So maybe you're not familiar with us because our name today is Byrd Barr Place, but originally we were CAMP, Central Area Motivation Program, and we were CAMP for quite a while. We didn't change our name until 2011 to Centerstone. But most recently, we've changed our name to Byrd Barr Place in honor of Roberta Byrd Barr, who is a legendary civil rights leader, an activist, and journalist. She was a passionate advocate standing up for what is right, and she was always elevating the voice of the Black community and the poor. And so we really wanted to honor her legacy and her memory by changing her name to Byrd Barr Place. Next slide. So Byrd Barr Place supports Seattle with a mission to fight against the effects of racism and segregation, and we have since our founding over 50 years ago. We've been really instrumental in combating poverty throughout Seattle, and basically through supporting basic needs, providing education and direct financial assistance. And we do a lot of advocacy through our community engagement work to bring about more equitable futures, specifically for Black Washingtonians. Next slide. So who we serve, our clients come from all parts of the city with varied social, cultural, ethnic backgrounds. We serve immigrants, refugees, mostly the elderly, folks that are disabled, and everyone is pretty much at 150% or below of the federal poverty level. And in Seattle, that is quite lower than the area median income. We're serving folks that have an average monthly income of $1,300 or $1,400 a month. So you can imagine that there is a really great need for assistance that Byrd Barr Place provides. So everyone that we see is in deep need of support to just meet the most basic human needs: shelter, food, other access to resources like bus passes or medical care. And so our job is really to meet people where they are and make sure that they have what they need to live a life of dignity and respect. Next slide. And so basically we do that through our programs, which include housing and energy assistance, rental assistance, our food bank. We have a financial education program, and then we have quite a large community engagement arm. We serve almost 15,000 residents in Seattle every year. And as you can imagine, in the wake of COVID-19, we're providing really a lifeline to our community members by responding to the devastating effects that we've seen COVID-19 have on our most vulnerable members of society, and what the pandemic has exposed the inequalities that are already present in our system. Next slide. So the food bank is basically our first point of contact with folks, and we've remained open throughout the pandemic. We did shift our food bank distribution to the outside. In the past, it was a client choice model, and we let folks shop inside the food bank to kind of mimic a grocery model, but to kind of keep everyone safe and to be able to continue uninterrupted service, we moved the distribution outside. We've seen the 600 people before the pandemic, and now that number is almost to 1,000. We've also tripled the folks that are receiving grocery home delivery through our home delivery program, and targeting elderly and folks that are more susceptible and vulnerable to the COVID-19 virus. To increase the amount of fresh and healthy foods we're buying directly from local farmers in Washington State, there's been a real lean on the food distribution system. So we aren't getting as much donated food as we did in the past, because there's a greater need for the food that comes from Food Lifeline or Northwest Harvest. And so we've been purchasing food directly and leaning more heavily on our neighbors and community members who are doing food drives for us. Next slide. This is a photo of what a weekly bag of food looks like. You can see that we really put a lot of emphasis on fresh foods and healthy vegetables, because we know that right now nutrition and food is so important to keeping people safe and strong. We're also working with a lot of organizations around the city to coordinate extra bags of food to help them with their constituents, like Mary's Place, the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, the South Park Senior Center, and other residents of affordable housing buildings like the Liberty Bank building nearby us in the Central District. And we expect the demand for the food bank to continue to rise through the winter and into the next year. And so we're prepared to meet as it rises. Next slide. Our other largest program is the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which also is our rental assistance program. And we have moved those applications online. And this is a photo of us distributing masks. We are supporting during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, we were bringing food and masks to process sites. We're also giving masks out to everybody that comes through our food bank. We've been lucky to receive a lot of masks as a donation, but we've also purchased them to make sure that everyone that needs a mask has one. Next slide. And then we've moved our application for our energy assistance program online, because we wanted folks to continue to have access to that financial resource without having to come in, and to be able to apply remotely. So there's been a lot of ways that we've adapted to have complete uninterrupted service. I'm still in office right now. We've still been coming into work every single day, making sure that we're here for people when they need us so that we can answer their questions, find the resources that they need, make sure that they get a bag of food, that their lights and heat stay on, and really meeting them where they are in this moment. The next 3 slides are studies that we've published. This is more of our community engagement arm. These are reports that we did qualitative and quantitative research on for the health and well-being of Black Washingtonians, and looking at what impacts them and what are the barriers to their success. So these are all studies and reports that are on our website that you can look at. They're really illuminating. And this last one, and so we press on, was very timely because it was about specifically health equity and access for Black Washingtonians in the healthcare system. So that's us. Yeah, no, that's okay. Next slide. Any questions?
Hi, so I don't see anybody put in a question in the chat, but we do have some time. So if anyone feels like unmuting themselves and asking a quick question, feel free to do so right now.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me just talk and talk and talk for 10 minutes. I appreciate you guys listening and your interest in the work that we're doing at Burbar Place.
Meredith, could I ask you again to remind me of the name of the civil rights activist? What was her first name? Miss Byrd Barr.
Her name, Roberta.
Roberta.
And if you just search Roberta Byrd Barr online, there will be a link to a video on YouTube of her TV show Face to Face that she did in the 70s. And it's a really cool kind of reminder of how similar the issues are today that she was combating, 30 and 40 years ago. So I recommend anyone, if you want a little break to see something cool, check out Roberta Byrd Barr on YouTube.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Meredith. It was really, really cool to learn more about what you're doing and how you're responding to the pandemic. And so next we have Donato Fatuese, the Operations Director at Utopia, Seattle. Donato, take it away.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Quick audio check. Can folks hear me fine? Okay, wonderful. Welcome. Again, my name is Donato Fatuese. I am the Operations Director at Utopia, Seattle. Utopia stands for the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance. And our organization was established in 2009. If we can go to the next slide, please. So who is Utopia? So Utopia was created to create a safe space for queer and trans Pacific Islander community to address basic needs and to build pathways towards new expanded career and life opportunities. This also includes to be able to foster a sense of common purpose for many of our community and to advocate for social justice, education, and overall wellness amongst members of the Pacific Islander, LGBTQ, greater community. So to kind of bring that story to place, like for many Pacifica people who have migrated here to the Seattle area, because our identities are unique while we exist under the LGBTQ umbrella, there is an Indigenous aspect to our identities that has cultural significance. And to be able to create a space where our community can come together to address many of the issues that we see, or to just be able to connect to resources to help other trans folks like myself, or Fa'afafine, as we are called, access resources here in Seattle. And so we have 3 areas of programming at Utopia. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So our three main program areas include the Sex Workers Empowerment Initiative, Community Organizing Program, and Cultural Empowerment Program. I'm gonna walk you through briefly each of these three program areas so we can look at how COVID has impacted all of our programming and has created new ways for us to reach out to and support our communities throughout the pandemic. So our Sex Workers Empowerment Initiative program is centered around our Fa'afafine community and our LGBTQ youth. Many, as a result of discrimination or lack of education or resources, become involved in sex work. For me, that was a very true reality when I was forced to drop out of college because my family could no longer afford to keep me in school. I was introduced to sex work and as a means of survival, that became part of my reality, but it didn't become the end of my story, right? And so for many folks in our community, we share a common narrative, and that story is not uncommon. And so we have found that creating a program specific to empowering sex workers and decriminalizing sex work is necessary and is needed, but also to create ways and opportunities for folks to identify other resources or pathways in which they might see for themselves other realities or other ways that they could possibly thrive. And so under the Sex Workers Empowerment Initiative program, if we can go to the next slide, we have a number of programs in this program area. And so this includes specific case management. We also have a support group for trans or gender diverse folks that are engaged in sex work, both current or past experience, to be able to come together and share resources about how to stay safe, navigate and perform sex work in a way that also reduces harm. And that is called our transaction support group, and that happens monthly. We also have sexual health services that include regular testing for STIs, as well as getting folks connected to PrEP. For folks who are not aware of what PrEP is, it is a medication that can prevent folks from contracting HIV. And that is available to folks in our community for free, and we're able to help get folks that resource. We also do street outreach that includes providing folks with harm reduction tools and resources for folks that are engaged in street-based sex work, but also folks can call us if they need anything, and we meet community where they are, and we're able to drop off those supplies if needed. We also have our New Possibilities Gender Affirming Closet, which community donates work attire for folks that are considering transitioning out of sex work and need clothes for their next interview or for every day at the office. So this is a wonderful program that we're able to have that's also like very low maintenance, but is definitely very impactful. Another area is amending legal documents. For many trans people, when your identity does not match your legal documents, you often find yourself in a position that is not safe. And from personal experience, it's not a very good place to be. But thankfully, through this program, we're also able to help support community through that process and also help cover those expenses. In addition, we have our Sex Workers Work campaign, which is an online campaign that is centered around messaging to decriminalize sex work and to destigmatize sex work. So moving on, and that's just one program area. Our next program area is our community organizing, right? How do we shift from now creating a safer way for our community to exist, and then helping to build their community power, right? And that's what our community organizing program is all about, building community power within our Q.T.O.P.I.A community. So some of those programs under that program area include our trans and gender non-conforming leadership cohort. We are now in the second year of our cohort, in which we currently have 15 trans and gender non-conforming individuals enrolled. And this cohort focuses specifically on identifying campaigns that for institutions or policies that work to undermine our existence, to develop ways to combat that. So it's a very beautiful program, and we are very proud to be in our second year of instituting this program. And it helps to also build the community power of our trans individuals. In addition to that, we've been doing lots of work around census education, voters education, and voters registration. And then we are also part of the Trans Economic Empowerment Coalition, which includes a number of other LGBTQ organizations. Our third area of programs is our cultural empowerment program, right? In order to move forward, we can never forget where we came from. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, one of the things that make our specific identity very unique is because of its cultural ties to our home in Oceania or the Pacific. So many of us come from many different islands in the Pacific: Samoa, Tonga, Hawaii, Fiji. But there is, despite being from different islands, we are all tied together. And so our cultural empowerment programs help to maintain that connection that honors our ancestors, as well as ourselves as future ancestors. And so this includes our Talanoa dialogues, our Q.T.O.P.I.A biannual retreat, in which we welcome much of our other Utopia chapters. So it's not just Utopia Seattle, we have Utopia Las Vegas, Utopia Alaska, Utopia PDX, Utopia New York, Hawaii. We're all over. And our Q.T.O.P.I.A retreat helps bring everybody together to convene and envision together like how we want to move forward in this work. We also have another monthly support group that's called Real Talk, and it's our Cutie BIPOC support group. We are also part of the Climate Justice Task Force. We have a language revitalization program. Annual Transgender Day of Remembrance ceremony is coming up November 20th, so please look out for that information as well as annual Trans Day of Visibility campaign and Trans Awareness Week campaign, which is happening the week leading up to November 20th. So keep an eye out for that, folks, as well. So how has everything shifted since COVID-19? If we can go to the next slide, yes. So everything's just been like thrown into this funnel, and then we've had to really reimagine how we can continue to maintain our programs, which are very necessary, in a way that also keeps our community safe. And so we have had a number of COVID-19 response efforts that we had started immediately when the news broke out. On March 3rd, we shut down our offices and had to switch gears into like, okay, this is now becoming reality. People's lives are directly impacted. How are we gonna be able to keep folks safe and keep our community safe. So over the course of those number of months, we have helped to serve over 400 U.T.O.P.I.A individuals and have distributed over $100,000 in cash dispersed directly to those impacted by COVID-19. Additional aid was also provided to individuals whose only source of income was sex work, because sex workers were also left out of the stimulus. We also had a food distribution program, and in the course of over 16 weeks, we had 58 volunteers contribute 742 hours of service to help feed up to 600 families each week. Currently, we have suspended that program and have shifted into a voucher program in partnership with King County and the city of Seattle to provide Safeway vouchers for folks. So people can decide for themselves like what is needed and be able to access those things. We have also helped to distribute PPE, health and sanitation supplies, weekly, and have been made available for appointment and pickup at our office. We've also helped to prepare care packages and ship them directly to our trans and gender but diverse community or arrange drop-off services. The final area of our COVID-19 response efforts has been the messaging and the resources to better understanding how to keep our community safe. And so we serve on the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander COVID-19 Task Force and have helped to develop comprehensive resource guides for our communities, our Micronesian community, our Polynesian community, and our Melanesian communities. At Utopia, you might see that every Friday, we post Friday Facts, and it's a campaign to provide most recent COVID-19 related news and information. Sorry, I have a Zoom bummer. And then also gathering data from community impacted by COVID-19, but also helping to create language-specific resources for many of the folks in our NHPI communities. And so now our programs are not just those three things. It now includes our COVID-19 response efforts, and they're continuing today. And we are hoping to be able to restart our emergency financial assistance, which we ran out of that fund. So if folks listening today on this call, this is one area in which you can help to support Utopia Seattle by becoming one of the employee giving folks. So thank you so much everyone for your time. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at our website, or if you're not able to give, help stay connected with us on social media and follow lots of the amazing programs that we have to offer, or let's just be friends that way. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. It looks like we have time for just one question. And Andy wanted to ask, he says, wow, that's a lot of programming that you offer. How many staff and or volunteers are out there doing all that great work?
Thank you so much for asking. So a year ago today, we had just our executive director hired. So just one staff person a year ago today. And since then, we are now at 9 staff members. And so the growth has been exponentially great. And so despite everything that's going on and the new programs, like it's just been so amazing to be able to help our communities in a way that's truly holistic, right? And so it's been really amazing, although very stressful. But we have such an amazing team of folks that are dedicated to the mission. And we also have a huge network of folks that are also invested in our work as volunteers. And there's over 50 of them. So when we had our food distribution drive, you know, while we only had a small number of staff folks help distribute up to 800 cases or boxes of food, we were very lucky to have such a strong, committed group of volunteers help with those efforts.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much. And so with that, we'll save any extra questions till the very end. And I'd like to introduce Casa Latina. We have Jessica Nieves here. And first we will kick off with a video, and then she will field any questions.
COVID la verdad vino a impactarnos de diferentes maneras, pero la más difícil fue en lo económico. Casa Latina durante el COVID, la verdad fue nuestra única salida o apoyo. Nos dieron una mensualidad y también nos ayudaron con algunos, bastante de hecho, cupones de comida. Entonces nos sentimos que pudimos remediar esta situación. Siempre seguimos conectados a Casa Latina. No hemos podido venir a las reuniones o las cosas que hacemos, o clases de inglés, pero es maravilloso que ellos cuenten con toda esta tecnología, estas personas disponibles a estar brindando todo esto por línea. Ha sido grandioso poder contar con ellos aún en esta situación. Ellos han estado para nosotras.
Those of you who are just learning about Casa Latina, something you should know about us is together, we raised more than $250,000 in cash assistance for Casa Latina members whose families were impacted by the closing of our worker center. We also called, emailed, and met with Governor Jay Inslee to demand that he approve the Undocumented Immigrant Relief Fund. We now have a statewide fund of $40 million for families who were left out of federal stimulus support. As the governor said, COVID-19 doesn't care what your immigration status is. And Casa Latina has been and will continue to be here to help. We're offering weekly webinars in Spanish that average over 1,000 viewers. They provide key information about COVID safety, workers' rights during the pandemic, and unemployment benefits. Programs like our English classes and Women's Leadership Group have shifted to online presentation. We also reopened the Worker Center with new health and safety protocols to protect both our workers and employers. With leaders like Delmis Argueta, we are continuing to push our elected representatives to include our entire community, no matter their immigration status. COVID-19 has changed how we work, but our ultimate goals are the same. We want the Latino community participating equitably in the economy and democracy of this country. There's no doubt that COVID-19 is having an impact on Casa Latina and our work, but it's not our whole story. The same is true for Delmis. She is a strong, resilient woman and a community leader. Let's tune in to learn more about Delmis, because for her, COVID-19 is also just one part of the story.
En Honduras se vive lo que es el narcotráfico, pandillas, todo eso. No se siente uno seguro. No hay mucho trabajo. Mi esposo no quería que nada malo me pasara allá. Al principio mi sueño era vivir en Honduras. Tuve que cambiar ese sueño de vivir allá por el sueño americano. Todo se menciona como un paraíso en Honduras, que esos Estados Unidos. Venimos solos, que si hemos estudiado, pues no nos sirve aquí porque no hablamos inglés. Entonces tenemos que trabajar siempre en algo diferente, aprender nuevas cosas. Tengo familia en Atlanta y allí sí fue donde experimentamos demasiadas malas cosas. La policía en Atlanta, totalmente racista. Somos un negocio para ellos. Nos arrestan como criminales enfrente de nuestros hijos, que mis hijos vieran de que un policía me estaba arrestando. Le dije a mi hija, te prometo que esto no lo vas a volver a ver y te voy a sacar de aquí. Todo lo que nosotros buscamos es un mejor futuro para nuestros hijos. Cuando llegué a Seattle, conocí una muchacha, una amiga de México. Yo le platiqué que quería ya trabajar. Hicimos la llamada Casa Latina. Nos dijeron de que ya nos dieron la información. Mis experiencias de trabajo antes de llegar a Casa Latina, no muy buenas. El salario totalmente bajo del que es el salario mínimo. Muchas horas y muy mal pagado. Tenía que salir de la mañana hasta la noche, casi regresaba. Yo tengo 3 hijos, entonces la verdad se siente uno como en una cárcel. Casa Latina es mi segunda casa. Cuando comencé a trabajar aquí en Casa Latina con el ingreso que aquí podemos tener, nos brinda una seguridad. Tener mis clientes propios, eso me da una gran tranquilidad. Puedo estar también más tiempo para mi familia, para mis hijos, para mi esposo. Trabajar con mi hermana, eso también me hace sentir súper bien. Siempre la incluyo en todos mis trabajos, en todos los que yo puedo. Si no hubiera agarrado estos trabajos en Casa Latina, pues no sé qué hubiera sido de nosotros. Sentirme que soy mi propia jefa es lo mejor que me ha pasado. Esto me ha motivado a que yo debo apoyar y siento esa fortaleza y digo por las que no lo tienen, porque tienen mucho miedo. La Carta de Derechos básicamente es como nuestra protección para nosotras las trabajadoras del hogar y todas las demás. Significa lo que no teníamos y que necesitábamos tanto, y que nuestro trabajo puede ser visto como todos los demás. Significa mucho para mí, es lo mejor que nos ha pasado. Me siento comprometida que tengo que hacer algo por lo que estamos pasando. No debemos parar, debemos continuar, seguir luchando por toda la comunidad. En Atlanta me sentía como una persona como que no existía. Ahora me siento fuerte.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Jessica Nieves. I'm the Development and Communications Director at Casa Latina. Wanted to share that video because, as mentioned, what's really important for us is that our members really do lead our work, and wanted you to hear from one of our members directly. But I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have after watching the video. If not, I'll pass the baton to the next speaker.
Jessica, question. This is kind of a setup question. If someone's interested in hiring a Casa Latina worker, how do people go about doing that? And I say that because I just had a friend who had a really great experience, and the Casa Latina members, again, needed the work, and it was nice to know that it was also supporting the program. So how do people support through hiring workers?
Yeah, thank you for that setup question. I love it. Yes, feel free to go to www.casa-latina.org, and actually right on the homepage, if you scroll down just like an inch or so, you'll see an option that says, I want to either become a member or I want to hire a worker. You click that and it'll give all information. You can either call our worker center or submit a form online. One thing that's super exciting that I love about a worker center that's nice for people to know is that our workers, they set their own pay rates. It's well above minimum wage, and 100% of anything that comes through hiring goes to your workers. We fundraise for operational costs separately. So if you hire a worker, 100% of that actually goes to them. Thank you, Brianna, for that sub question. Love it.
Great, thank you.
Greg Wilson.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Greg. Did you have a question real quick?
I did. Are you familiar with the affinity groups that we have here at King County? And we have a specific affinity group where they call themselves Affinity Latinx.
Oh, I've not connected with them, but I would love to. Do you know how I could do that?
So I'm working with them now. So I sent you a note asking for how I can connect the two of you. So yes, their passion and their focus is a lot of your mission. So and we have a great group of people who are just really dedicated and committed and part of the family.
Thanks, Ray. I'd love to connect. I'll chat you my email address right now.
Great, wonderful. Next we have Lynn Mazer with King County Hope. If she's here yet, she had a conflicting meeting, so she was going to hop on a little bit later in the call. Hannah, is she?
I'm here.
Oh, great.
I
Wonderful.
made it.
All right, Lynn, take it away.
Oh, I want to thank you very much for inviting me to present this wonderful group. We've been around for a while now, but we're one of those very little known, and we should be much better known, especially in times like right now when we have the COVID going on and other things that are happening that are kind of putting us, all the employees here at King County, a little bit at risk and making life uncertain in the future. So what Hope does, KC does, it's helping our people in times of emergencies. And if you want to go to the next slide, we'll start showing. This is one of those things where if you find that you can't pay your rent, and right now, of course, there are subsidies and things like that that are going to be helping for this duration of COVID, but then from what I hear later on, they're going to want to have their rent, and they're going to come back and they're going to say, we need money, we need it now. So what Hope does is provide up to $3,000 per person over a lifetime. So if you don't need all 3,000 up front, you can come back later and get more money if you need to. You apply for it, and it's based on your hardship. It's based on what your needs are, and you must still be employed with King County. We unfortunately can't help those people who have been laid off, but we're trying to work with another group regarding that. So going on to the next slide, I know we have very limited time, so I want to make sure we get through everything. So our history is that we based our organization on two different groups that had gone before us with WSDOT and the City of Seattle. And it provides the financial assistance, a bare minimum basically, that's going to provide the financial assistance to King County employees and the immediate family who are experiencing the crisis. We've developed our bylaws. We now have a great board. We are always looking for people who would like to get involved as well. It does great work. And we have been working toward becoming better known so that we can help more people. So going on, who we help, it's you. There are times in life when, due to an unforeseen illness that comes down on you, or fire or flood or whatever that happens to you, and suddenly you are left with not knowing, how am I going to pay this bill? How am I going to eat? That sort of thing. We provide the financial ability to at least keep you on your feet, keep you going. And as I said, we provide up to $3,000 gift for the lifetime of that person. So unfortunately, right now, that is the maximum that we can do for people. But we've helped quite a number of people for that. And as you can see from the one testimonial there, it is showing that we do reach a good many people. On the next slide, we provide the grants to use for rent, gift cards, purchase food, funds to help with medical costs. But we actually have a very substantial applicant request review. We don't just give out the money to anybody who asks. We do require the submission of the application. It goes through all our board to review that person and what they can do and what we can do for them. And we never pay directly to that person, but we pay to the biller. We also provide the gift cards directly to the person, but that aspect of it keeps it from being misused or getting diverted to something else that we did not agree to. And then our program costs, leadership, all of our people who are on the board, we're all volunteers. There really is practically no cost overhead that we have, except that we are planning on getting a new website, and that's probably going to cost something. We have a post office box, and of course our basic, I'm sorry, I keep getting dinged here, our basic banking that needs to be done. So there are plenty of things that people can do to help us. And it's, as we said, we need the money. We need the money in order to be able to help other people. It goes right back out to the people in need. So that's one of the really great things about Hope. We constantly are trying to make sure that people hear about us so they can be helped. So get the word out there. Then how you can help. Our next slide. We're part of the program. Our number is 9797. You'll see it again here. You can give straight through that. You can give straight to us. We will accept the donations directly to our bank account. As you can see, you can mail in the donations that way. But volunteer and get the word out. We really are here to help, and we really need you. And finally, our last, it shows our website. Our website is woefully out of date, and unfortunately the person who is working on it has left us, and so we are working to get that updated. However, the information, most of the information out there is current. And our email address is always going to be current. So please ask me questions if you want to volunteer. If you think this is something that maybe we can network with your group, I would love to talk about that. Possibly we'd like to partner with other groups and see what we can do to help each other, especially at this crazy time. So that's basically me in a nutshell. And thank you for letting me speak. I tried to go through it fast because I wasn't sure how much time I would have.
You're perfect, Lynn. Thank you so much for being here today. I don't see.
It's very quiet. So I guess either I skipped through things too much or you got all the information you needed, but I do hope that you will consider us for the EGP. Even $10 a month is going to go a long way for us. Buys a nice gift card for food for people. So think about that, because we're helping each other stay on our feet here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lynn, so much.
Oh, and thank you to Josh. Josh was the one who got me involved in this.
Shout out to Josh. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think from here we're going to.
Okay. Yeah, we wanted to give Greg Wilson was a member of the EGP Frontline Nonprofits group, which was the cross-departmental group that came together and created this list. So I just wanted to hear from him still for a moment, just kind of about those efforts and to share that with folks. And then we will include the list that they came up with in the blog post about this and any follow-up communications. So Greg, if you're here, I'd love to hand it over to you.
Good. Did you have specific ones that you wanted me to address, or?
Just to share a little bit about how the group came together and just kind of the mission and vision.
On the Frontline group?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to give all credit to that to Brianna. And Brianna, please feel free to chime in as well. We, as a part of the Employee Giving Program team, just wanted to get together to see how we could bring added value to the process. And more important, you know, there are some organizations who don't have the war chest like Children's Hospital or the Boys and Girls Clubs, etc. And so Brianna said, and there's the group of us, and I don't have all the names in front of me, they said, let's get together and look at how we can further support some of the, I can say, nonprofit organizations that we can help lift up and to help encourage and to help fund where we can as part of the process that we all are in. I don't know for the guests that are here, we're at $790,000 or more than that at this point in time. And so how can we direct some of the $2 million that we're raising to help focus on some of the passions that we have as we look at some of the BIPOC communities and the LGBTQ communities and other conversations that we could have. And so that's why I appreciate both Hannah and Stephanie as well, because it's about the coffee conversations that we're able to have and enjoy that we have today, and not about a deposition about coming in and judging anybody. And so that was the root of how we got to where we are. And, you know, yeah, I'll turn it over to Brianna because she's really been the one to help get it organized, to help sustain it. She had to take a little hiatus, but we still missed you and still kept you in mind. So how would you like to compliment that?
Thanks, Greg. I wasn't expecting to be here today, but I'm home for a bit, but I'm okay. So I get to be here with you all, which is a silver lining. I just always think I've just seen over and over again when we're able to come together that we can make things happen. And so I just was curious. I was like, who else in King County knows not just the deep need, but the deep possibility and power that's all over King County in so many communities. And I know, a few organizations that are making a lot happen with a little. Who else at King County just has those relationships with people in other places? And so we came together, got a little Microsoft Teams going, and thankfully Stephanie came across our paths, and Stephanie was really the glue in this. Stephanie, just thank you for jumping in without really knowing anybody, helping bring it all together from all these places across King County. And so I think, Greg, you really embody that spirit too of let's just come together, see what we can do. And I know Janelle also really helped bring that together. So glad we could be here today.
thank you so very much. It's been really cool to see all the organizations who are out there really on the front lines right now. And so after we share that list, if there's any organizations that you know of that you think we should add to it, because it's terribly robust, but we know it's probably not entirely comprehensive, just, because there's so many folks out there doing really good work. So yeah, feel free to just send edits. I'd like to kind of reopen the floor for any questions here in the last few minutes. I really appreciate everyone joining us today, and